This tutorial is going to show you some of the features on the left-hand side of the gradebook over here in these three drop-down menus. So the first one we'll take a look is the gradebook. The learning mastery, that is something that we currently really wouldn't use in this district. Basically, it's I'll go ahead and click on it and show you, but this is something that's tied to outcomes. So you can see learning outcomes, and notice this is blank because we haven't put in any. But this looks a lot like standards, and outcomes in Canvas are essentially the same as standards. So if we ever reach a point where we can start entering standards or benchmarks, whatever, into Canvas, and they're going to stay consistent, these things could be selected. Basically, they would show up as like this colored box along with the point value of a particular assignment in the grading field. It's like instead of like a 12 out of 12, it might say exceeds mastery 12 out of 12. And there'd be like a green box in there, and that's how we would know it exceeds mastery. Or if it was like a 1 out of 12, there might be a red box, which basically saying, hey, this student did not, or is well below mastery and didn't receive a very good grade. Once you get into these screens and navigation, it's a little bit weird. So in order to get back out of this and go back to our traditional gradebook, we just hit here. So that's what learning mastery is. The individual view is one that you may use, especially like for showing students or parents their grades. So if you go here, this just allows you to choose the section. In this particular course, I'm using the course that you're in. I have a spring and a summer section. If you guys were teaching like, I don't know, PE, you might have 5 sections of PE. So you would choose the section that you want to go to. In this case, I'm just going to leave it open, and I'll choose a student. I'll go down here to Andrea. I think she has a pretty good grade, so hopefully she doesn't mind. And if I come in here, I can see Andrea's grade. It's currently at 100%. Here's kind of the breakdown. The other thing I want to show you guys too is what happens when I click here. So I'm in individual view now. And if I click on her name, it's going to take me straight to her grades only. And this would be the part that's valuable sometimes to both students and teachers. And right now it's set on learning mastery. So it's like, hey, look, there's an outcome. But if I click over here to assignments, this shows me all of the assignments that she's done. And this is just something for you to kind of understand. This is what students see, and this is what parents would see, or if you're showing them, that's what you can see. Notice it does record late things, and that's fine, but it does keep track of that for you. So it puts a tag in there. This is basically showing you this little box with the check mark. If I click on this, shows you how everybody else did. So in this case, everybody got a 5 out of 5. I can close that. And these are the comments back to Andrea, and I'm not going to share those at all. But anytime there's like this little comment box, that's basically saying not only was the assignment graded, but there's a comment as well. This is an assignment that hasn't received a grade, but notice there's a comment. Here, this is a quiz. This assignment has been graded, but no comment. So just some features about the gradebook as well in that regard and whatnot. And so now we're in individual view. Okay, and so the best way to get back to that, since I'm in individual view, is now to use this breadcrumb trail. So I'm going to go ahead and click back on grades. And it's going to still be in individual view. So now if I want to go back to my original gradebook, I have to come over here and hit gradebook. Okay, so now it goes back to hopefully what you're used to seeing, or what you'll most often see for your class, which is all of your students here on the left, all of the grades here on the right. I'll show you the one last thing under the gradebook, which is the gradebook history. And this is just kind of a history of your grading. And notice it has a bunch of search fields. So I can, like search, like, for example, I can search Andrea. Okay. And so if I go ahead and search there and hit filter, this is going to show me all of the grades for Andrea here and when they were graded and so on and so forth. And obviously they're graded by me. So that's going to be pretty simple. I can also search by assignment, start date, end date, and I can filter this down if I so choose. Okay, so this is another way to do that. So I'm going to go back and click on grades again. That takes me back out of the gradebook history piece. Okay, the other thing I can do too here in view, I have some filters here, so I can arrange this by a default order. I can go modules first to last, which is kind of nice, that way I can basically see all the things. That's kind of the synchronous way of doing things, like a timeline way of doing things. Now you can see the different ones there. I can also use filters by assignment groups, module sections, or student groups. And then statuses is basically like you can see some red on here. These are people that were enrolled in the class but didn't accept it, and whatever the case may be. And then lastly, on actions, these are just things that you would do more so if you're syncing your Canvas gradebook with Power Teacher Pro. So this would be where you would import things, export assignment groups to Power Teacher Pro. This is where you would sync grades if you don't have it set up to sync automatically, and things like that. So in any case, these are just some other features and different views you can get as well. The last thing I'll show you is how to get to SpeedGrader from inside of here. See, and this has changed a little bit as well. And this also, notice too, has your grade posting policy on here. And this also has the hide grades. So if you're hiding grades, this is kind of, these two things here, the grade posting policy and the hide grades, are essentially the same thing as the grade posting policy that's over here in this settings menu. Just so you know, this is a way to enter grades, as points or percentage, and things like that. There used to be a way to get to SpeedGrader from within here. I believe now, though, the only way would be to go here. And here's some other little things here, too. This is Lindy's. Notice when I click on her specific thing, this is her snipping tool assignment. I can view it in SpeedGrader here. Okay, I can go in and manually change this grade, and I could also set this as late, missing, or excused. Okay, and you can see the comment I left here when I graded that. Right now I have the status as none. Let's say that I change this to late. Okay, and notice it's saying how many days. If I had that late policy in place, this would then basically be like, okay, it's going to deduct a certain amount. Obviously, I don't have that late policy in place. And notice too, when I even click out of here, notice it changed that blue. Okay, because it was in fact late. So I'm going to go ahead and double click in here again. And I'll pull up this little menu, and that's that little sideways thing. I can go to SpeedGrader, which lets me into SpeedGrader not only for her assignment, but for everybody's. I'm going to change it back to none, so Lindy doesn't get penalized here for anything. But in any case, that's another way to access SpeedGrader from the gradebook and use some of these additional features as well. And let's say that I wanted to hit excused here. Okay, so now it just says excused. Notice it took her grade entirely out of there. So it's like, hey, can't grade anything that's excused, right? So I'll go ahead and fix that one more time. But these are another of a few more of the options. And actually, you're going to have to change that to none first, then come up here and change that to 5. And I probably just blew up Lindy's email in the process, because if she's getting notifications, she'll probably see that all of this in fact happened. There it's back to 5. And there is no save button over here. I guess that's something else to point out. There is no save button. And then, like I said, if I did want to view the rest of these in SpeedGrader, I just simply click on SpeedGrader. It'll take me to Lindy's because that's where I was at the time. But if I did want to view the other people's assignments in SpeedGraders, here's Mr. Glass, here's Deb's, so on and so forth. I can view everybody's assignment for this thing, and that would be how to get to SpeedGrader. And then the way to get back to the gradebook, by the way, this is the hide button. So if I didn't want to publish these right away or post these right away, it's right here. And the way to get back to the gradebook is just to click there. And it takes me back to my gradebook from SpeedGrader. So that's a quick overview of some of the additional or alternate views from the gradebook and some of the additional features as far as late, missing, and excused.